What's going on, guys? It's Logan. Welcome back to another video, baby. Today we're going to be talking about auditions, self-tapes, my approach to them, and kind of the process that works for me. I did a video like this very similar a while ago, but it's kind of the new updated version because my process has changed quite a bit. So nowadays, in-person auditions really aren't a thing anymore, even callbacks. Like I just did a callback last week, and it was on Zoom. They send you the link, you go in there, you see the director, the producers, and everyone in there, and you're just sitting there on the other side of a camera trying to act. It's a little bit rough, but it allows me to actually live in Florida and not have to live in Atlanta or LA, so I am grateful for it. But you're going to come across that a lot in the industry nowadays with the self-tapes and online callbacks. So let's go ahead and talk about the audition process and kind of my approach to it. So like I said, nowadays you get a lot of self-tapes. You're going to have to record in your own house at home. So what I do when I get a self-tape is my agent will email me, yo, here you go, here's the breakdown. Go on Actors Access, which is like a website that you use for auditions, and some casting departments do use. Or they'll be like, hey, here's the information, send it to me, I'll send it to the casting director directly. You're going to get a full casting breakdown. It's going to be everything from the storyline to the character breakdown to the rules and directions and just the layout on how they want you to submit the audition. Everything from what to name the files to how you need to film it. Everything's going to be there, counting the lines and the character breakdown. What you need to do is, like I said, look at the instructions. You need to look at when it's due, what the storyline is, who's actually attached. Is this a project that's currently going on? Have you seen the show? If it is, all those things are really important just to kind of get a feel for what this is. And like I said, that due date is pretty important because you need to know when you need to get that in by, because that is usually a pretty hard deadline on when you're able to submit by. But you are actually able to ask for a deadline extension if you do need it, if you have things going on, or if it is a lot to digest in a short amount of time. You can ask for an extension if you need to. So after you go through all the instructions and you know what you're kind of working with, you can actually get to the scenes themselves. So don't go into the scene knowing the character and knowing it. Just go into it, read it like you would read a book or read anything else, some size that you would come across online from a show or a movie that's already existed. Just go on there and read them about 10 times. That's going to really help you with this next step, which is answer the 6 questions. So everyone has their own different process, and I have a video coming out, if it's not going to be out before this, talking about my favorite acting books, and they're all from different acting coaches. One of them is a business book. The others are actually more about processes, and they all have a different process. They all have different questions that you have to ask yourself while doing scene analysis and diving deep into scene work. But my personal 6 are these. Number 1, who am I? Number 2, where am I? Number 3, what are the circumstances? Number 4, what are my relationships to people or things? Number 5, what do I want? And number 6, what action do I need to take to get what I want? So in the who am I question, you're basically just asking, who is this person? Where do they come from? Do they have any siblings? What stuff in their past and different events in their past have shaped them into who they are today. And basically what I do is I just kind of sit there and I pace around my house, just pretty much talking to myself. I kind of look crazy, being like, okay, this guy does this. Okay, this is kind of who he is based on this in the script. This is kind of what he's feeling here, blah, 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 whatever. So you basically just kind of use what you actually read in the scenes in the previous step, in step 2, just to kind of work out who this character is. Now, after you get done with the who am I, you work on the where am I. The where am I is pretty self-explanatory. Where are you at? But it's not only where are you at, it's what's your relationship to the environment. Is this a place you're comfortable? Is this a place that you're at a lot? Is it a place you're not comfortable with and you've never really been to? Was there a traumatic event that happened to you in this place? Like, you really got to dive into what is the essence of this location, because that's really going to determine your character's confidence and comfortability through the entire scene. The next question is, what are the circumstances? So like what is going on? You know who you are, you know where you are. Now what's actually happening? This is pretty explanatory, nothing too deep there, just what is going on and what are the circumstances that are actually occurring in this moment. Like I said, question 4 is, what are my relationships? Now, it is what is your relationships to actual people, but it's also what is your relationship to objects. Uta Hagen talks about this a lot. She says, endow everything. Everything has some kind of meaning to you. Like, I'm not going to lie, like for certain meals, I'll use a big fork. For certain meals, I'll use a small fork, and it's instinctual. It's just what I've done my entire life, and so that means something to me, either subconsciously or consciously, right? So every little thing we do, every little thing we use, every choice we make, it is there for a reason. So should just endow that, right? What is your relationship to that? thing, or person in the scene, because that's going to really impact the entire scene and really these next two questions that we're about to answer. Which number 5 is, what do I want? Based on your relationship, based on your circumstances, based on where you are, and based on who you are, basically going through all the previous questions we just asked and answered, you now have to figure out, what do you want in the scene? What's the conflict? What's the butting head moment within the scene? And that's answered in the what do you want? Like, what's your character? Who are you? What are you trying to get out of this situation? What are you trying to get out of this person or thing? And that really determines the entire scene and the purpose of why we're watching this. Which that goes into question number 6 out of my 6 questions, which is, what action do I need to take to get what I want? Like, now you know what you want. What do you need to do to get to that point? And Uta Hagen also talks about this a lot. Even Sanford, Meisner, and Howard Fine talk about this all together. All those 3 people are included in the book video later on. Once again, if it's not already out now, the link will be down in the description below no matter what. They all talk about how, especially Uta, we are always taking action. We are always doing things for a reason, right? You don't just go and you don't just feel an emotion. There's actions you take to get to that point of feeling that emotion. There's actions you take to get to a certain point, right? Which is usually what you want, which is what we're talking about. And so she's heavy on verbs, right? Verbs, things that you can actually do. And that'll really lead you on the path on deciding what you want and what you need to do to get what you want. So we're always taking action. Pick a verb. And that kind of goes into, when you hear people all the time talk about, you need to make choices. An actor needs to make a choice. To stand out in a self-tape, to stand out in an audition, you need to make a choice and take a risk. What that is that's just choosing an action. That's just choosing an action to get what you want, because there's so many different things you can do. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're trying to convince someone, you can do that in so many different ways. You can be flirtatious if you want. You can go in a more angry, crazy way. You can be in a more manipulative, kind of, slick, snaky kind of way. You can approach an end goal and approach what you want and get what you want in so many different ways. And that's kind of what people mean when they say take a chance, when they say take a risk or make a decision. That's what that means. So those 6 questions, like I said, who am I, where am I, what are the circumstances, what are my relationships to the people and the things in the scene, and what do I want and what action do I need to get what I want? Those 6 questions are really, really important and really start to kind of flesh out that scene. And the next thing we're going to have is read the scenes with paraphrased lines. Now, this is a new thing that I've started to incorporate, because I believe it was Sanford Meisner talked about this in his book, which is Meisner on Acting, which once again, it's in the other video. Last time I'll reference that, I promise. He talks about it a lot, which is, memorize the lines, that's all important, but we're not at that yet. Now that you have a good feel of the scene, who your character is, what you want, all those things, and you have a kind of a feel for the lines, don't worry about getting the lines right. Just read through the scene and have someone read it with you, or use the voice note app, whatever it is, which, by the way, I'm going to talk about memorizing lines and everything in a different video, and I'll talk about different ways to kind of memorize them and read with different people. But anyways, I like to use a voice note app and like to kind of leave a gap in between the lines so I can respond with my line if someone's not able to read with me. And what I do is, instead of saying my line, I just come at it with whatever I'm feeling in that moment, whatever's instinctual. I do the Sanford Meisner technique of just listening and reacting. That's all we're doing as actors. That's all we do when we're acting. And so if you just listen and react with whatever you're feeling inside, not the lines, because it's coming from you, you're going to make a deeper connection with the circumstances in the script. And honestly, you're not going to be as in your head, which we can get into that a whole nother time of how over-rehearsing with the lines can actually be a negative and all those things, but which I kind of shifted my mindset on, which once again, separate video. If you guys want to see that, let me know. But I do think that doing this paraphrasing is really, really going to bring you into the script in a lot of different ways. So I personally recommend it. I've been doing that a lot recently, and I just feel more connected to the scene and what my goals are because it's coming from me in my own words. I believe it a little bit more. The next one we have is rep. Reps. Do it over and over and over and over and over again. All the acting coaches talk about this. Sanford Meisner really, really talks about this. Get in and rep it. What I like to do is I like to go in a monotone voice. If the line is, let's go to the park, I go, let's go to the park. And I say the line very, very, I mean, you can go slow, you can go fast, whatever it is. It's not necessarily an actual pace I do it with, but I say in a monotone voice because I don't like to pre-shape. One thing I've noticed when I'm acting, if I'm trying to memorize lines and I add emotion into it, which does help memorizing early on, I catch myself pre-shaping the way I do it. If I memorize it with emotion, it's hard for me to get away from that emotion. If you memorize it in a monotone voice, you're kind of in the middle. You're kind of balanced. So now, if you want to go on one side of the spectrum, you can. If you want to go on the other side of the spectrum, you can. And you're going to want to play it one way instinctively. And I think that's important to lean into that for sure. That's what separates you from other actors and makes you unique. But I like to do the monotone kind of voice, which is what Sanford Meisner talks about. Don't overdo it, but it's just nice to kind of memorize that way. And like I said, I think allows for more freedom. Now, before we get into this, to step number 6, it now depends on how much time do you have to work on the audition, because usually I'll have a couple of days to work on it. And so all the first 5 questions, I'll do all of those, first 5 steps, I'll do all those in the first day, and then the 6th one I'll do in the second day. But if you only have one day to memorize it, you kind of got to squeeze it all together, which kind of sucks. But if you have the time to work on it, that's super beneficial, and you're actually able to incorporate this 6th step the way that I like to do it, which is the next day or later on that day, start to apply the previous steps, meaning 1 through 4, with you actually knowing the lines, right? So now instead of just doing all the background work and not knowing the lines, or now knowing the lines and doing it in a monotone voice, not really applying those things for pre-shaping, or, for kind of escaping the pre-shaping kind of reason, now you can actually apply all of it together. So now you can start to actually play, add a little bit of emotion in there for the first time, experiment with different things. Now that you're in the center of this spectrum, you can play with the more angry side if you want to, or the more, flirtatious side that we were talking about earlier in our early example of how you want to achieve your goal and what you got to do, what action you want to take. You can do a bunch of different actions. You can play, you can do different things, and that's where you really find the substance of and really just find the you find the scene for you. You really find the heart and soul of what you're trying to convey, and I think that's where the magic really takes place. So those are the 6 steps that I personally take when I'm approaching an audition, when I'm approaching a self-tape. It sounds like a lot, but you just go in there, play around, feel what's right, feel what's not. Like I said, sometimes I'll, rush it. Sometimes I'll take time if I have time. It really just depends on how much time I have to work on the audition, but I love to incorporate these 6 steps. These 6 steps I think are just it's a culmination of a bunch of different acting books I've read, a bunch of different techniques that I've studied, and that's just what works for me. Doesn't mean that this is going to work for you, but these are steps that I would try out yourself, see if they work, and go from there. But yeah, those are the 6 steps that I take when I'm approaching a self-tape or an audition. Appreciate you guys watching this video, man. If there's anything else in this video, I know I talked about a lot of different things and kind of skimmed over some probably important stuff that you want to know more about. If you want to know about certain things, though, let me know, comment down below. I'll do more videos talking about these things and really diving deeper into them. But I appreciate you guys watching this video, man. I'll see you next time.